whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dance and
Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor-agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from the fiction. Now let's get this started with your hosts, Mario Diabenedetto, Rob Katz, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
Episode 45?
45.
Colt 45?
Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
No.
You want to fact about the number 45?
Wait, not the beer. The 45 caliber. Never mind. I'm not going to promote guns.
So fact about the number 45?
No.
What? It's a triangular number. 45 is the sum of all of the digits. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, all the way up to 9. It's 45.
Oh, and wow. A 45-degree angle. Wait.
Is acute angle.
Is acute. And
it's adorable.
But then you add the two acutes of 45 and you get the 90. So anyway, we could go on for
what?
2 acutes and one. What is that? Not acute, but it's just a 90-degree angle. Is
it's called a right angle.
Right angle. There you go. I couldn't remember the term. It's not a left angle. It's a right angle.
I'd ask ChatGPT. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, Mauro. Enough of this. I'm sorry for leading us down that path. What do we got today? Oh wait, we got a follow up. Didn't we end on the?
We even segued from last episode 44 into what we were even going to talk about. We gave a teaser. Very, very unlike us to plan.
Rob, what was that teaser?
It's not a very good riff if we're teasing the next episode. We're really not riffing.
It's technically not a riff. It's more
we're planning ahead.
Pre-riff.
So super cool. 2 guys in a garage. AI build a company up to $1.8 billion in value.
In 2 months. 2 months.
Wow.
It's like the American success story.
Is that like Wozniak and Jobs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Or Gates and...
I think the name will go down just like Jobs and Wozniak, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wait.
Oh, you want the real story?
Yeah, I think there was a little more to that story because I don't remember it that way.
All right. So I don't normally make a point of picking on media, but where I picked up this story was on somebody picking on the media, so I'm going to. So New York Times basically ran a story that was what I just said, celebrating this company called Medvi, which was a telehealth provider of GLP-1s that had grown in a ridiculous short period of time. A guy and his brother started it. They had some ridiculous hundreds of millions of dollars in sales really quick. Like they did 300 customers the first month, 1,000 the second month. Like it was crazy. And the New York Times was celebrating all that. And then when people started to dig in, things were maybe not as pretty about how this company was operating.
Shocking.
And so rather than being the success story of how easy it is to create a behemoth, because listen, in our lifetime, the idea of something being $1 billion company, that was a huge deal, right? It's almost not even a thing anymore, right? They used to be called unicorns when you were worth $1 billion. Now it's no, you've got to be worth 100 billion, right? You got to be the $1 trillion company. These guys had an effective valuation based on some metrics of $1.8 billion. But they were basically outsourcing everything. They weren't really operating compliantly. Yeah. And it really isn't a success story. It really is a story of how, it's a story in a lot of ways of how AI can mask something to make it look like you've done something and you've been successful, when in fact you didn't even understand the space in which you were operating in.
Oh, like a term paper.
I don't know why that goes into your head.
Well, let's throw a couple examples out there. So the I just lost the name of the
Med-
GLP-1.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
It's basically the
Cookie.
weight loss, diabetes medicine that makes people lose their appetite, huge weight loss, Ozempic, and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah.
So these guys used AI to generate false before and after pictures. They used AI to generate hundreds of fake accounts on Facebook that were promoting the product and giving false references about the product.
Fake doctors. Fake
Yeah,
doctors.
fake
Yeah.
doctors. That's right. That's right. Endorsing their stuff. Right. They had FDA warning letters back in February about misbranding violations that were ignored. So, okay, let's state the facts. These guys use AI to build a business. They got a valuation, but they were bad actors using AI for nefarious purposes and lying and misrepresenting and building up a valuation of a company that wasn't worth that valuation.
And I can see that happening in not just that industry. It could be
Right.
happening currently in many different industries right now.
Including the one we talk about in lending, right?
Yeah.
It would be so easy to think that you could open up a shop and start originating mortgages as a broker or, and not have any clue as to the responsibilities you have throughout the process.
Right.
And probably even, AI is better these days, but probably even having AI say, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, I gotta say I've been building something in and around the space. It's not in the space, but it's around the space of mortgage lending. And I got to tell you, Claude's been very good at telling me you need to get an attorney to look at this. You need to do this, and it's been suggestive and saying here are the areas you could be stepping on some compliance areas. If you don't want to step on those, just modify it this way. And it's like, oh, well, that's good to know. And so there are guardrails, and they could have been using them, but I think the dollar bills were in front of them that said once they went down that path, they couldn't come back. They made off themselves. They couldn't go and unwind that Ponzi scheme. So it's too bad. But when you start with nefarious goals, you're going to end up on the wrong side of the law.
Well, I think that is the difference between my example and these guys, right? These guys were intentional. As Rob said, 800 fake doctor accounts. Like, you're not just like, you're out to basically scam people, right? And in our industry, you don't have to be that nefarious, and still you could get in a lot of trouble thinking that you were operating fine and not really knowing, that you were playing by the rules that you ought to be playing by.
Yeah, I know plenty of good people with the right intentions, with the wrong interpretation of how they're supposed to do something. And they either had bad counsel or they didn't ask the right questions or show the right process. And then when the auditors came in, they said, whoa, you can't do this. Now, thankfully, it was not any company I've ever worked at. But I'd heard horror stories, smaller companies typically, not bigger. Bigger ones tend to pay the dollars for the counsel and make sure to keep themselves out of trouble. But yeah, I don't know.
I think a takeaway from this story is twofold. Mario, you touched on it at the beginning. A, the media sucks, right? The fact that these guys got hooked into the story, the New York Times got hooked into the story and put it out there without fact checking and seeing what's going on and stuff like that, is one thing. On the other side is these guys used AI to get to market faster for less money than it would have taken to do the same fraudulent business a year ago. So take the fact that their business was fraud and they were lying and misrepresenting. If it's true that they only spent 2 months on it and $20,000 before they had $100 million in revenue or whatever the numbers turn out to be, take away the fact that the product that they were selling was fraudulent. They used AI to develop something fast. How long would it have taken to manually go create 800 fake doctor profiles on Facebook? Yeah. It would have taken more than 2 months. They used an AI tool that probably kicked it out in a couple of hours, that kind of thing, right? So I'm not saying in any breath of imagination that I support what these guys did at all. But It's AI. AI makes your job easier. Things go faster. You can do more with AI than without AI, right? It's, so just pick your projects wisely.
I like that. AI makes your job easier, whether that's a legal job or an illegal job. It makes it easier.
That's all right.
So to combine a couple things, and I don't want to leave this if you guys have other thoughts, but I did want to just kind of combine a couple things because we spent a previous episode talking about Mythos, right, which was more about cybersecurity. But if you take the concepts we talked about of the type of anthropic model that can, basically find gaps in things and stuff like that, and you combine it with something like Meta, who has been pretty much not in the game for AI for a while. They have been a non-issue. Is kind of looking like, maybe they have a shot at being back in the conversation, right? So they released their first version since they spent a lot of money on some serious talent, and that new serious talent, this is their new version of that talent. I think it's called Spark.
Muse
Spark. Thank you. And I want to combine those two things because if you imagine a really powerful model inside of the Meta tools, inside of Facebook and all their different tools, should we expect them to actually do the work to stop stuff from 800 fake doctors showing up on social media? Like, I have this idealistic desire that they're actually going to police with this stuff instead of letting it loose and people because you could imagine the opposite.
Out loud for real, Mario. Come on.
You could imagine you can imagine the opposite, right? You have this super powerful AI sitting on top of Facebook, Instagram, and everything else. What do you think people are going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to scam one another, right? And it's like, well, where did that get society?
Well, that's a whole. We could do a 4-hour long podcast about.
We got 8 more minutes in our dog walk.
Yeah. So touching on Muse Spark for a second, and just reading what they publish, the self-published information is they spent 9 months building this, which is an extraordinarily short amount of time for something as complex as this, but also 9 months, really? That seems like a long time. And they describe it as, and I'm looking for the actual words here, it's a deliberate and scientific approach to model scaling where each generation validates and builds on the last before we go bigger. So I'm interpreting that as they built this model and then they're having the model validate itself before they layer in the next level of technology that's going to be there and so forth. So, the definition of artificial general intelligence is self-correcting, self-healing, self-learning AI. This isn't that. And they don't imply that it's that. And I'm not trying to imply that it's that, but it feels like it's kind of moving in that direction if I'm interpreting that sentence properly, that the model is self-validating.
I don't have a lot more than what you guys have talked about on that. So I'm gonna yield the intellectual property to Rob and Mario on that one.
I'm gonna throw out one other factoid, and it's unrelated but related. In some stuff I was reading today about Anthropic, not about Mythos, about the latest stuff, but about the latest coding capabilities that Anthropic offers. Hidden deep inside, I guess when they had their code leak, they had 2 code leaks in the past couple of weeks. One of their code leaks actually showed that they're using neural networks inside of their LLM, which is not normal, right? Those two things are not normally married together, and that it's their neural network piece of their puzzle, which is not particularly large, is what makes their coding so damn good.
And that feeds on another story that I kind of read, sidebar, not necessarily part of that story, of that biological computing company that's or TBC is the name of it, that is getting funded to do two doctors are funding are building out neural networks because they're faster than trying to. I mean, the chips were originally designed off neural networks, and that's a rough design off the neural, but it's forced into a physical state, whereas the neural networks are ever expanding and growing, and the idea is feeding, I think, on a lot of what what the proof is in the pudding that Elon Musk came out with in his neural net. And so they're trying to develop it so that, these guys are from those companies that are starting this, Meta, Apple, Amazon, and they're actually building, it sounds kind of crazy, but a multi-electron array of which neurons grow from stem cells that are reprogrammed into frontal cortex cells. So that's crazy. That just seems crazy.
Did you say what, THC? Are you high?
TBC. It's not THC. It's TBC.
CBD.
I do wonder, how are they going to keep the brain cells alive? I know they're not really alive, but
they say they do deteriorate and go away. That these actually, it's a the misconception is that it's just a research project, and what was it saying here? That they're going to make the world understand it, but they hope to move the real-time compute of these biological chips themselves as part of the interference loop. And but the reality is there's a lot of foundational things that need to be understood. And but they're not. The thesis is out there, right? But it seems like science fiction, but it's not right now. And they're not keeping the cells alive. They're staying alive for as long as they live, as they create them, and then they're staying alive. But they're regenerating new ones at the same time. So it is way over here atop. It's up here, like out of the screen for me.
So we have riffed. We are seriously riffing.
Yeah.
So I am going to go hard left turn on you guys and say I have the answer because I just happened to be reading an article about peptides. No, I am not into peptides myself. I would like to see clinical trials. I am not one of those people who's going to be doing them without that. But there are plenty of people who do. And they just discovered a peptide that in animals regrows those neural receptors, those connections that are in your brain that you need, right, to have at tens of thousands the normal pace.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your feeder program for the chips that they put. And it doesn't even say they're putting it in someone's head. It's just
coming on. Like I feel like I'm a human battery now. Like you're disturbing me, Kyle.
Yeah, it's like, do you have a fever? No, my neural net's just overheating. I've had a lot of compute time. It's like, we got to, and also we got to get into this whole on a later episode. This Artemis project, which is really, really sparking up. They're trying to fast track the whole moon landing and moon base and building architecture and data centers and everything in space and on the moon. And that's crazy cool stuff.
Will be from the moon.
Yeah. So we'll be doing the AI moon riff.
I wouldn't want to go to the moon until they can prove that the toilets work. That's the type of guy that I am.
But they worked on the unmanned one.
So hold it. I need clinical trials. Rob needs a functional toilet. What do you need, Kyle? What's
there's got to be a wet bar on there so that you can. I want to see the effects on someone who has 1 drink and 2 drinks and 3 drinks in space to see if maybe it could actually improve bodily health.
Are you willing to be a test subject?
I will overcome my fear of space to be a test subject, but I think my liver is already too far gone. So I'll leave that to the young at liver,
So we've drifted in our riff way away from AI. I'm just going to throw out a plug for the movie Project Hail Mary. Very enjoyable. Best audiobook I've ever heard in my entire life was the audiobook of that. The movie held true to the book very, very closely. Very enjoyable. But there certainly was drinking in space.
Yeah.
This episode sponsored by Project Hail Mary.
Is that in Harkins right now? Are we? Did you see that recently? Okay, I may have to go see that before we take off. But okay, I think the dogs just about walked. Yeah. I think we weren't riffing too bad.
We were drifting. That wasn't a riff.
Drifting, not riff. We riffed on the drift.
The AI drift. That's a different podcast.
No, it's the same podcast. And on that note, I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Rob Katz.
Just kidding. I'm still Mario Di Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets ride in fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key that rings. A revolution, quiet, but it's vast. Building empires where echoes of futures cast. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean.